Before I get things started, I know it's unconventional. You know, my regular startup and everything I usually do didn't work out when I first came in. But I want to give a shout out to all the members of the Green Gorilla channel. Lord Hamal, Lotus Eater, Life of Commerce, J. Cleveland Green, Apex Prowler, J. Bino, Jay the Bino Advocate, Rogus Son, Kyle J. Sura, Brotherly Love 215, The Thinker, L. Fry, Timothy Blewett, Michael Ross, Jeffrey Speed, Marvin Battle Jr., Mark Hope, Pete Rock, John J., The IDP Expressions, Darnell Smith, Afro Troop TV, Adam Tahuti, BGS Ivmore, Ignatz Mouse, Show Me, Brian Peaks, Papa Didas, Scott Haywood, Black Uhuru Strikes, Dr. Tree 33, Raiz Muajid, Leroy Honeycutt, Broken Blade, Super Tech, Kisses from Afar, 77 Base X, Brian McMurray, Kayron S, Anthony Davis, Artisan MC, Damon Brown, Donnell 360, Herbert Lewis, Seven Coast Dojo, Pulpit 28, Charles Rogers, B Hillfire, Rick Ross, Sandra Jean 955, Charles Gilmore 3, Patricia Colley, Greg, Barry Little, Alan Wiley, Mr. Valentino, Jason Hales, Black Men Being Brutally Honest, Cameron 87, Nelso, Doc LaRock, J. Charles, The Face, Mark Swift, Odd Collar, Donald Watts, HipHop.ca.tv, Coach DC, Kashif Caldwell, Mr. Blue Collar, Barnolas, I'm Just Jules, TD Hip Hop Media, Drew Main, Mr. Heat, Sir Anthony, MLR, Universal 178, Rashid Barnes, Aaron Smith, DH, C Truth the Revelator, Gold Professor, Aaron Infinite, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Kalanja Kala, Ricky Dawson, Cedric Bowman, True 7360, BK Born Shaheed, Hostile Adept W Per One, and I can't forget my brother in heaven, Force Windu. Big up to y'all, man. Shout out. Word. Also, I want to give a shout out to all the people on the Patreon side. I want to give a shout out to Asangwa, Darnell Smith, Dragon 59, Everett Meadows, Jason Warren, Jay Bailey, Lamont Latimer, Mr. Michi, Momal, NEU, Preserve Prisoner, Romello Scuggs, Rufus J. Winfield, Taz, Tyrone Hampton, Waffle Weave, William Joyner, and Excalibur. Big up to y'all, man. Real talk. And shout out to all the brothers out there right now who've joined the stream. I know I haven't been here for a while, so, you know, I don't expect a big turnout, but thank you for turning out. So shout out to brother Truth Be Told, Southpaw, Joes, Barry Little, Valeri Kimru. Shout out to Asora of Seed, Christopher Clipper, Barry Little, and, Brian Evans. I might repeat some things. Furious Angel, big up to you. Shango Zulu, Cameron 87, Jay Carter, Darnell, Heru, Aten Patah, Mr. Lou Meth. Big up to y'all, man. So, and so many others, you know, that may be here. Big up to y'all. So, today what I want to have a conversation about is something I've been perplexed about, you know, when I first came across it, you know. It's this whole thing about divesting, you know what I'm saying? Like, I looked at it, you know, I looked at it with curiosity, and Dr. T.S.I. Johnson, man, said, hey, man, you should look at this video, and, you can have some fuel for your fire. And, you know, I kind of put it off. And I'm sorry I've been gone for so long. I've been trying to get together this music channel, and it's, you know, rising off the ground really slowly. But, I wanted to do all that work first and have it up and running smoothly, and then get back to this. So it's up and running smoothly. And all of the music that you hear on there, I done mixed it, mastered it, produced it in some shape, form, or fashion or the other. So go check that out when you get the opportunity. You know, I need some subscribers to hit that channel up and make it a go. And shout out to Ebo Sosa, bruh. Big up for the support, man. Shout out to you, brother. Appreciate that. Truth Be Told says your music channel is dope. Thank you, Ebo Sosa, for that kind contribution. Appreciate that. So anyway, man, go check out the music channel. I can't right now. I don't have the link to it, but I think at some point in the stream, you'll see the bot give you some indication of how to get in the, how to link to the music channel. But anyway, so look, I've been looking at it, from a distance. I never really paid very much attention to it, but today I just want to make some comments about it. And, I want to talk to them to a certain extent, maybe not directly, unless they want to come on the show and actually put their case forward. Put your best foot forward. But, my viewpoint on it is, if you're going to divest, do it. I mean, do it and don't look back. I mean, like Lot's wife, did when leaving Sodom and Gomorrah and got turned into a pillar of salt. That's my view. Like, okay, well, you know what? Find you a white man or a white woman and get on with your life. Get on with it, man. Get on with your life, man. Get the step in. Holla at you. Or, like they used to do Jazzy in the old series, Peace out. Holla at you. Leave us niggers to our own devices and get to stepping. Because once you divest, that's separation, like divorce, right? There's no real need to comment on what you left behind, like Lot. Well, not Lot himself, but Lot's wife, okay? But see, that's the problem with black folks and divestment, especially in the United States. Because one thing about it is, you can't seem to shake your blackness. You can't shake it like Hove did the dirt off his shoulder. And why? If I was speaking to a divestor, up front, close and personal, I'd tell them frankly, because white people don't rock with y'all like that. They don't. I mean, for most of these people, and white men especially, you cool for a quick smash. A spit lick behind a bush. A rumble, in the motel. A quick hit in a car in a parking lot. A hookup while inebriated in a college dorm room. But not really much more. Because the reality is, if you think about it, most white men don't see black women as a member of their own kind. And neither do white women. You don't fit in. You ain't got the complexion for the connection. You just don't have it. And quite frankly, look, besides that, what would a white man really do with you? You have a biological problem. The babies that you would produce with these white men, they would be Negro babies, either male or female, most of whom would be politically and hermeneutically challenged. And when I say hermeneutically, I mean they wouldn't understand the world they live in and how to interpret their reality and tackle the problems that the world will face them with. After all, I mean, let's just be honest. Black babies are the fruit of your wombs, sour or sweet. So even if one of y'all reproduced with a white man, you would still give birth to the Negroes that you're trying to avoid. And that's the tragedy. That's a fucking tragedy. What a fucking tragedy, bruh. To be running from Negroes, man, okay, let me put it in these words, right? Quite frankly, the problem is you. You have a biological problem that you can never overcome. You're stuck with it. That is, if you intend to reproduce. Now, if you don't, intend to reproduce, then you really don't have a problem, okay? But if you do decide to reproduce, you have to come to terms with the fact that you are a Negro incubator. You are a Negro incubator. And you are a Negro fabricator. You are a Negro fabricator. Not by machines or robots or an assembly line. Not by the clinking and the clanking of iron tools like hammers and chisels and all of that. But by the silent inner workings of your wombs. Just like the silent, working of the craftsmen in King Solomon's temple, where ringing and rattling was not to be heard while the temple was being erected. Now, if I was speaking directly to a divestor, I would say, if I read your ilk correctly, the problem with the black community is black men. But if the problem is black men and their behavior, then what is the source of this perniciousness? What is the source, the origin of it? Who is responsible for black male behavior and their values and their comportment? Who? Because if you look at the facts right now, let's look at the facts. Most black babies, some 70% of them, are born out of wedlock to single black mothers who, by and large, raise these boys by themselves. Now, some of you would like to say that this is due to black male abandonment of women and children. But think about it. Your very philosophical outlook, your way of thinking about the world, along with the opinions of many black women, let's just be honest about this, belies this as a reality. Shout out to Hostile ADEP. Appreciate that, my brother. I got to put you on screen, man. And I've been in permanent shadow ban, so I ain't, if I don't get a big turnout, it is what it is, man. I'm a little rinky-dink dude on YouTube anyway, man. Shout out to Hostile ADEP, man. And shout out to the brother that hit me on the Cash App, man. Appreciate that. Brother, truth be told, appreciate that, bro. But think about it. Most black babies, some 70% of them, are born out of wedlock to single black mothers who basically are raising these kids by themselves. And some of y'all want to say it's all because of black male abandonment. But if you think like you think, you divesting, you avoiding black men, then abandonment really is not the issue. I'm gonna show you what the issue is. I'm going to show you what the issue is. I'm going to show you quick facts. Not long facts, quick facts. This is the problem.
Raise your hand if you're married. None of you are married. Raise your hand if you would like to be married to your baby's father. One. The rest of you who don't plan to get married, why don't you plan to get married? I'd like to know that.
You already have your child to think about, and then a whole family to care for. It's a lot of responsibility. And then you don't want the commitments.
I wouldn't want no man holding me down because I think I can make it as a single parent.
But don't you think you might need help in raising that baby from a man?
Not really. I didn't have a father. My father wasn't in the home, so, you know, it really, male figures not substantially important in the family.
Now I want to know, could you actually hear that? Because on my end, I didn't really hear the audio very clearly. But could you hear every word that woman said? If you can hear every word she said, put a 1 in the chat. I just want to make sure that, you know, my audio is operating appropriately and properly. Okay. If you heard that, man, like if you heard, okay, you heard everything. Cool. But look. Clearly, the issue is not abandonment. You heard what these women or these girls, you heard what their excuses were. They said, and this is before all of the language associated with femicide and brutality actually came to the fore. This is pre-feminist, ideology and orthodoxy being able to be utilized in order to make excuses. Back then, these women were just speaking from the hip. They were shooting from the hip, telling it how it was. Basically, they don't want the responsibility or the commitment. That's the facts, man. I don't want the responsibility or the commitment. This is why these black babies are being raised alone. And they ain't the only women that think like that. I mean, it's a new era, a new day and age. That was like in the early 80s. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. But this mentality is still prevalent. It's still here. Male is not substantially important to the household. My daddy wasn't around, so, it ain't necessary to have one. But you got to think, man, what is the outcome of this way of thinking for the life prospects of black children? Children who don't know their fathers, and who don't have the opportunity to be nurtured and loved, disciplined, and enculturated by both parents. So I would say to the divestors, the black women are the ones who see to black children's early childhood development and the instilling of their character traits, which will stick with them for a lifetime. And if you don't like what you see in black men, then perhaps you need to change the way you are rearing black boys. Huh? Because in the long run, black boys will become black men. And it is you who are creating them. And most often you do it alone and by your design. So again, what is the problem with black men? You divestors argue that it's just their essence. Okay? Just their essence. Black men are problems because they are brutal. And they are brutal because, why? Why? Well, because they're brutes. Like, really? Black men are brutal. Why are they brutal? Well, they're brutal because they're brutes. Like, what? Come on, man. But I mean, at best, to say that black men are brutal because they're brutes, that's tautological. It's circular reasoning. You're begging the question. You're assuming the conclusion and the premise of your argumentation. So that's at best what you're saying is tautological. Okay? But at worst, This way of thinking puts you in league with eugenicists, social Darwinists, and members of extremist racist groups like the Klan and the Daughters of the Confederacy. Now, surely y'all don't want to be lumped in with that crowd, right? Look, after all, even though you may perm your hair, might put in some extensions, you might even take on the mannerisms and the comportment of white women. But you are still black, ain't you? At least that's what you see when you look in the mirror, right? Or maybe, you like one of them Sammy Sosas or something like that. Megan Good, you bleaching your skin, Michael Jackson or something. Self-loathing Negro. You feel like you've been able to transcend your blackness. But it really amounts to being able to transcend your niggerness, right? No? Yes? But look, that's besides the point, man. Look, I'm departing from the subject at hand. I'll get back to that in a second, but who and what is responsible for the so-called depravity, brutality, and the cultural backwardness of black men that are manufactured in your own wombs and reared in your Negro homes and still with your Negro values, having adopted your own Negro character and your own Negro psychological dispositions? Huh? That's a serious question. Because, look, I suspect that many of you divestors, if one were to sit you on a couch and go deep into the recesses of your unconscious mind, you're really nothing more than insecure little girls, grasping, reaching in vain for a touch of whiteness. I'm serious about this, man. If you were a child and you were presented with the classical dial test, this is how you would respond. I'm pretty sure of it. And it ain't just black women that's prone to this, though, by the way. I got to admit that.
Which doll is the black doll? And which one is the white doll?
That one.
Which doll is the pretty doll? Which doll is the nice doll? Which doll is the bad doll? Which doll is the nice doll? And which doll is the bad doll? And why is that doll pretty?
Because he's white and he has 2 eyes.
Which doll is the ugly doll? Why is that doll ugly?
Because he's black.
Which doll looks most like you?
Like me.
Yeah, which one looks like you?
And that one,
Okay.
that doll.
So yeah. Hey man, we dealing with some psychological issues here. But here's the sad thing. Now, this is true of both black men and women, okay? You saw little boys as you saw little girls. But more than anything else, man, you know, black women are preoccupied with how they appear, what they look like. More so even than black men. Although black men are preoccupied with their appearance, but not like that. Not to the extent or the extreme. And the sad part of all this is, because black children are in a lot of, you know, these people who harbor these negative stereotypes and these ideas about themselves, because children are in their care, and the scope and the range of their understanding of the world does not extend beyond the flatness of their nose and the protrusion of their Negro lips. They will create negative feedback loops in which each subsequent generation of black babies will grow up and teach their children the same self-loathing that you harbor for yourself. What a fucking tragedy, man. That's tragic. What a fucking tragedy. You know, it's a tragedy. It is a tragedy. So, you know, I hear divestors constantly complaining about black men's power. But this power that they speak about is not really power at all, is it? Not really. What it is, it's merely black men's capacity to be brutal, isn't it? Because that's where they think our power resides. In the power to be brutal, to abuse. They say, oh, well, you know, black men really do have power. And why? Well, because black men are, as members of the human species, if the divestors are willing to grant us that. We're members of a species that displays sexual dimorphism. In the human case, this means that on average, men are going to be about 4 inches taller and 20 pounds heavier than the average woman. That's all it means. Okay? We got more muscle mass than women, and we're taller on average. But this is not true of all the species in the animal kingdom. You know, in several species, especially even in mammal species, right? There are certain animals that have a female population that's larger than the males. I mean, for instance, you got spider monkeys and Tasmanian devils and shrews and flying squirrels and humpback whales and hyenas. These animals are species in which the females are larger than the males, their male counterparts. So in my estimation, I'm thinking that these women are saying to themselves, oh, if it were not but for the luck of the evolutionary draw, you would be bigger and stronger than you are, and less prone to being dominated by the physical force of us savage, brutal, and animalistic black men. You'd be able to look at us and put us in our places, even with your hands, or the mere threat of your presence. So that's why you're invested in this narrative that black men are savages and need to be avoided, isn't it? Our power resides in sexual dimorphism. We can beat you up. That's it, right? I'm asking the question. I know I'm not going to get an answer in real time. It's got to be somewhat semi-rhetorical because I know that there are not any in the, the chat probably. And if they are, they're listening to argue against me, not arguing to listen to anything I have to say. But let me tell you a few facts about this, this female narrative, this femicide narrative about abuse and battering and all of that, which, quite frankly, I perceive to be hyperbolic bullshit. Brought to you by your previous owners and handlers, Miss Ann, whom you now seem to idolize like Mary, the mother of fucking God, man. Like Mary, the mother of God. Which people are the good people? Those people. Which are the bad people? Them people. Let's look at the facts. Let's look at the facts, because I'm tired. There are a lot of people on the internet now who are beginning to outline the facts. But the facts don't square up with the political narrative that a lot of these people are running around here promoting in some panicked, trauma, inspired way. But what's the reality? Listen to the woman who first founded domestic violence shelters in the world. Listen to what she's got to say.
In 1971, I opened the first refuge in the world. And for the first 4 years, I ran it on the grounds of generational family violence, which needed therapeutic intervention, which I created a model. The most important thing was not to create any form of institution, because you don't need staff. Mothers were perfectly capable of running the place themselves, and it was important that they did. And I was attacked by feminists regularly. Anywhere I went, I was picketed, I was threatened, because they believe that all men are potential abusers of women and children, and that all women are victims of men's violence. My mother was violent, well, both my parents were violent. And I'd always known it to be a generational, intergenerational family problem, because I could trace mine back both sides. Both my parents were abused children. And in the creating of this victim role, it's taken away, and I find it incredibly patronizing, because women are equally as able to be violent.
Snoop Dogg! Now you heard the woman that first founded the DV shelters. The one who started that. She basically says, look, 60%, over half of the women that were running to my shelters were as violent as or more violent than the men they were supposedly running from. But her movement got hijacked, like a lot of movements get hijacked. They got hijacked by, these termagants, man-hating feminists and shit, that really didn't want to tell the truth. All they wanted to do was to start their little political movement, which, by the way, now you done basically Xeroxed and copied unthinkingly, unreflectively, but now you got your ammunition though, right? Based on cap. But it ain't gonna stop there. I got some more to show. So if people who study this issue about abuse and violence and all of that in an academic way that aren't, pre-committed to a political ideology or a philosophical axiom, they all come to the same conclusion that like men and women both participate in this phenomenon. Now, if you want to solve a problem, you got to solve the problem with truth. You can't solve it with lies, and you can't solve it with politics. You can't solve it with moral intuitionism. You got to solve it with the facts. if you really are committed to solving it. But I don't think you are really, actually, most of these people are really committed to solving what's happening in the black community or like with this whole phenomena of abuse anyway. All they want to do is pin the tail on the donkey and blame men for the shit. But here's what one researcher, a man who's been studying this phenomenon for 40 plus years, he's deceased now, but here's what he has to say about it.
The bottom line is that in partner violence and domestic violence, women assault their partners. About the same percent of women assault their partners as men. It's not the same percent are not injured. Women are more often injured. But that doesn't change the fact that women attack as often as men.
Snoop Dogg! So women get injured more because of sexual dimorphism. But it doesn't mean that women aren't contributing towards this issue or this problem and that they don't hurt men at all. That's a lie. I got right now, man, you know, the computer is cycling through memberships, man. My bad for the intrusion. Thank you all for, you know, being members and, you know, being able to stick with me while I'm, while I was working on that other channel and getting all that going. Appreciate that. But I also want you to see his further comments related to this issue.
And what is the and the reactions to lectures like these? We understand that you've been censored, things like that.
Yes, generally people refuse to believe it, despite a lot of scientific evidence showing that these are the facts. In fact, overwhelmingly, 230 studies as of a couple of months ago. And people refuse to believe it. It can't be true. Everyone knows that everyone is supposed to know that men do this, and men do it, but so do women.
So then the question becomes, how can you argue that you got a group of men who are being brutal, but you're doing the exact same shit as a demographic at roughly either equal or higher rates than the men you claim to be brutes? So if that's the case, then what the fuck are y'all talking about? And that's for the divestors. What are y'all talking about? I mean, for crying out loud, the basic premise of mostly every ethical system in existence throughout the entirety of the fucking world. And I know you know this because many of you are more educated than the men that you seem to be dedicated towards caricaturizing as brutes, right? The golden rule is the hallmark of every fucking moral system in existence, basically. Damn near. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If you don't want to get hit, don't hit motherfuckers. If you don't want to be assaulted, don't assault motherfuckers. You understand that? Is that something you can understand? I mean, for crying out loud. Not saying that men don't do the shit, because men do the shit, but so do women. And unfortunately, we like to believe that, you know, like women are like just all dainty and little bitty, tiny, innocent, docile, passive creatures that have no capacity to exhibit vice at all. And that's complete and utter fucking bullshit. Like y'all all just walking around exuding pixie dust and fucking popsicles and cherry, flowers and shit, man. Come on, man. Let's be honest. More Murray, man.
So what are the practical conclusions of these kind of researches? What do you call to change in the world?
The main practical conclusion stems from the fact that when women assault a partner, they put themselves at great risk. They've set the example.
Try me. I won't mess. I promise you. I promise you.
Get out! Bitch! Oh, bitch!
And if we're going to end violence against women, we have to take steps to end violence by women.
This is something that y'all seem to don't be able to comprehend. If you don't want to get hurt, stop trying to hurt motherfuckers. Shout out to ICIP 13. Shout out to you. Appreciate that support, man. Appreciate that. Straight up. But I ain't done yet with the display of factual information. Because there's a lot of information out there. And look, I'm going to tell you something. I don't give a fuck if you're a divestor, investor, a detestor, whatever you are. I can guarantee you, I can almost bet my fucking life on the fact that you don't know more about feminism than I do. I'm taking graduate seminars in feminist epistemology, feminist theory, and feminist political philosophy. So I've read all of this shit going back to the origins, like especially in the Western world with Mary Wollstonecraft. You ever read her? Probably fucking not. I read what John Stuart Mill had to say about on women. I've read what Miranda Frickers had to say. I've read, Catherine McKinnon, Andrea Dworkin. I've read Gloria Steinem. I've read even the New Jack motherfuckers. I've read Kimberly Crenshaw, Brittany Cooper, Christy Dotson. I read all this shit. I guarantee you really don't have the amount of information that I have related to the philosophical generative principles that undergird the politics that you're talking about. Shout out to MLR, man. Thank you for the generous support, bro. Appreciate that. Thank you. Appreciate that. And Barry Little, man, big up to you, sir. Appreciate that, man. I'm back, baby. I'll be back more often. I got my little other channel up and running, so I'll be back here. The other channel ain't got nothing to do with politics. It's got to do with you enjoying yourself, man. Relaxing. Listening to a tune, man. That's it. Shout out to Barry Little, man. Appreciate the support. But I ain't done yet. Because, see, this is the premise that continues to, drive the car of all this anti-black male sentimentality that's going on out here. This whole, we getting just beat the fuck down by these savages. So you heard what the woman had to say that founded the first DV shelters. You've heard what a social scientist who's been studying the shit for 40 years plus and who's been granted awards for doing the research that he's done. Now we're going to look at another researcher, Don Dutton, and see what he has to say. And it's an update on what Murray has to say in these videos because the information is always being aggregated and accumulated to give us a more clear picture about what objectively and what is going on factually on the ground. So let's hear what Don Dutton has to say, man. What does Don have to say about this shit, man? Damn, I can't pull Don up right now for some reason. Hold on. I'm about to pull him up, though. Hold on. Gotta go to Don. Where in the fuck is time and why this shit ain't showing up?
The most common pattern of domestic violence, time after time, is bilateral violence, two-way violence, matched for level of severity. That is, with each person using just as potentially injurious and severe actions as the other person. The second, and that's about 50%, by the way, of all domestic violence reports are bilateral. The second most frequent pattern of domestic violence is female-perpetrated domestic violence. About 35% of domestic violence reports. The third most frequent is male-perpetrated domestic violence. That's about 15% of all the reports. In other words, the so-called wife battering cases are a distant third when we look at the whole sort of panoply of domestic violence patterns that we can get.
So there you have it. That's not Greg Popovich, that's Don Dutton. His name is Donald Dutton, man. He works at the University of British Columbia. He's been doing social scientific research for decades on this phenomena that we call DV. Unhampered, unfettered by the narratives put out there, political narratives, not scientific study. This is why, like people like Dr. Curry say, we don't study black people. And we don't. We don't study black people. What we do is we issue moral proclamations and political statements. But we're not dedicated to actually studying what's happening in the lives of black folks. We got a lot of politics and a lot of activism, but it's not a lot of rigorous study to understand what is actually occurring or happening in the environments in which we live. And if you don't have the right intel, how can you solve a problem, man? By just hurling insults and, developing political philosophies and political positions where you're just yelling at people and just, basically refuse to actually see what the data is telling you. How can you solve an issue like that? And I know many of you know it, especially if you're educated. And primarily, a lot of you ladies, like to be quite honest, y'all got degrees in psychology. That's the number one major for women. Specifically black women. Psychology. I got a degree in psychology. Psychology degree. Look, I don't know what you know about psychology, but I just so happen to teach undergraduates on the methodology that's utilized in order to make or to draw conclusions related to psychological or social scientific investigation to begin with. And I know you know this because if you study psychology, you've had to at some time or point in your academic career come across research methodology and what's sound and what's not sound in the practicing of any kind of research at all. Little cum guzzler, man. What? Man, get this gay motherfucker out of here, man. Get this bum ass nigga out of here, man. It's probably one of them divestors and shit. Looking like Clubber Lang and shit. Man, get this fuck nigga out of here. So anyway, I'll block the dude. But anyway, or the Gero, whoever it was, some fuck motherfucker. But at any rate, how can you solve it if you don't even use the right research methodology? Methodology related to social science is basically as follows. You use falsification as a means by which to derive information about the natural or the social scientific world. That's what you do. That's what you do. You try to falsify. You don't try to verify. You don't go out and try to confirm, because that would be called what? Confirmation bias. So what you do is you go out and you try to disprove the risky prediction that you made. This is standard practice in social science since fucking Popper came on the scene. Karl Popper. This is a part of every research program, whether it be hard or social science. The methodology is falsification, not verification. But here we are. We live in a world where people, like David Hume says, Scottish philosopher, basically people start off with an emotion or with, a premise or a conclusion already in mind, and then they try to use reason in order to justify it. But who stands to gain from that? Nobody. Because it's not an orientation towards the truth. But Negroes, apparently, like male and female, we don't like the truth. Because then we'd actually have to do the work to clean up the mess that we're in. But nobody really actually wants to clean up the mess. We all just want to stand around and point fingers at each other and shit. And let a group of misfits, a group of quacks, because to be quite honest, I'm going to keep it 100, bro. A lot of feminist philosophy and a lot of the arguments that they're making, I know the origins of it philosophically. I have a doctoral degree in philosophy, bro. Or sis. I got a degree. I studied, wrote long and hard about some of these issues. Most of the current political musing that's going on in women and gender studies and all of this nature, nurture, constructs and, non-binary shit, all of this is coming from French intellectual philosophy that's postmodern or post-structural. I know where it comes from. I know its origins. I know what underpins it all. I'm going to show a clip. It's going to be 5 minutes. Many of you are going to, not really actually be able to follow it, but I'll explain it afterwards or even stop it as it goes along. But, to be quite honest, I'm critical of modernity and of the Enlightenment and of the power of reason myself for various reasons. And I'll outline those reasons in the weeks to come. But man, to argue that there is no truth, that everything is your version of the truth, my reality, come on, man. Now we got people believing that women are men are women. You can just decide what the fuck you want to be just because you decide. Come on, man. We already know men, if males are incapable of giving birth to children, they can't do it. They don't have the capacity to do it. I saw in an article in a magazine where man gives birth to so and so and so and so. I'm like, okay. Come to find out the man, so-called man, was a trans woman and that she gave birth. And she was married to a woman, so go figure, like, how the fuck did that happen? Who knocked her up or him up or whatever the case may be? Come on now. A woman cannot naturally grow a beard like with the fullness of a man unless there's some sort of hormonal imbalance. Or unless she's taking hormones in order to make her similar to a man, testosterone. If it's all about constructs, then why the fuck can't you just imagine it and desire and will it to be? Oh, I just want to be a man. Then grow up a penis and all that. If the world is as you just decided to be. But there are some objective facts about the world that push back against what you imagine. But that's what you get when you get postmodern and post-structural philosophical musing taken to absurd extremes. But I want to go to my brother Ishmael Reed. I want to take a look at what he has to say, and then I'm going to comment on that.
It's about a black woman who can't walk down the street in safety. I lived in Boston for 9 years. In 1979, 12 black women were murdered in a 4-month period in Boston. I lived in Roxbury. That is a black community in Boston. What did it mean to me and to every black female and black man in Boston that 12 black women were murdered precipitously during that period? That's what black feminism is about, to try to explain that.
I'll tell you what, Jet Magazine, which I read every week.
I do too.
And which is very reliable. Published some Justice Department statistics that show that more black men are being killed by women than the other way around. Now, when I say that, the feminists get emotional. They say, "Well, that's not true. Or it must have been because of self-defense." But I think that men should stop killing women.
They should stop killing each other.
Women should stop killing men.
And black men should stop killing each other, too.
One group should not be singled out as the repository of all evil in the world. And I think we agree on that.
It's the motherfucking Eagle Double G. Snoop Dogg. You know I'm mobbing with the D.R.E.
The facts of the world often don't square up to our beliefs about the world. And as people who are educated and people who are truth seekers, it should be your goal to try to tease out the truth. So that you can solve whatever problems or maladies that exist within the society that you belong to. They can be remedied, that you can fix them. But how can you fix them if all you're doing is just coming with hyperbolic bullshit and you're not talking and telling the truth? How? So you want to divest for the very same shit you doing in the context of the house. And look, it is a fact that between the years of 1975 and the year 1985, that more black women were committing intimate partner homicide than men. That's a fact. That is a fact. Now you can try to make an excuse for it, which all of these feminists have been doing. Well, they're fighting back. Well, how do you square that with what Don Dutton says? And there are women who do research in the social science departments as well, who basically say, look, when it comes to, who assaults who more unilaterally, it's women assaulting men more. It's a fact. These are facts. It's just the fact of the world we live in. And if it's a fact of the world we live in, then we got to deal with the facts and have that shape our political orientation, other than in the reverse. We come up with a political ideal and then we do everything we can to rearrange our interpretation of reality to conform to our political ideology. That's bullshit. It's always been, it's always going to be bullshit. But this is going to get a little cerebral. And I'm going to explain to you the political and the ideological programming that's being done in the context of contemporary universities. Where all of this shit is coming from, to be honest, okay? This is where it's coming from. And look, at the very same time that women were committing homicide to their intimate partners more so than men, you got a woman named Ellen Pence. She wrote the Duluth model. She basically crafted the Duluth model of domestic violence. Her and a man, she had other people with her working on the project, okay? But there was also a legislator in Minnesota that she was working with as well named Michael Paymer, okay? Now, I know this because I read the literature. And she wrote an article called Some Thoughts on Philosophy in an edited volume or a volume of a journal called Coordinating Community Responses to Domestic Violence. She wrote in there, she just made this shit up. She just pulled it out of her fucking anus. And she talked about some of the confirmation bias that she was engaged in while doing so. But they don't ever backtrack and clean the shit up. You don't want to go back and clean up bullshit. You just want to continue to persist with bullshit. But that's just I guess the nature of what research is all about, huh? Now I'm going to Thomas Kuhn. You know, scientific revolutions, how people, you know, they hold on to their pet theories and don't want to let them go. If you're committed to solving these issues and these problems, you have to do so with truth. You can't do so with politics and moral browbeating. That shit ain't gonna work. I'm gonna take somebody who just came into the stream real quick and see if he has anything to say. But I'm gonna show this clip in a minute. The masculinist. How's it going, sir? Are you there? I guess he's not there, so I'm going to continue on with what I got to do. So shout out to Mr. Heat for the double contribution. And yes, I confirm I support that message. Support the Green Gorilla channel, folks. Appreciate that. And it's always glad to be in communion with you brothers as well. Straight up. And shout out to Ghetto Houser. Appreciate that, brother. Appreciate that. I think I already shouted out MLR and Barry Little, but I'm doing so again. And also, I want to give a shout out to the brothers who hit me up in the Cash App. Appreciate that. Appreciate that support. Brother, Truth Be Told, and Nobody, and Michael Miller. Appreciate that. But back to the lecture at hand. So what's actually happening in the academy to where these kind of ideals are being disseminated to the public and it's not even grounded not really even true. But here we go, man. I got to show you this, man. Peep it.
The academy has been invaded by a new form of study. It used to be the case that at universities you were teaching a recognized subject with a recognized curriculum, and you were carrying out research or scholarship in the humanities, which was open-minded, guided by the pursuit of truth, and not dismayed, particularly if it came to surprising or unorthodox conclusions. Now, one of the first things that happens when a totalitarian government takes over is that the universities are cleaned up. As I say, people who are doing that kind of thing get thrown out. This is what happened when the Nazis took over the German universities and when the Soviets took over, the communists took over the Russian universities. And it was the case in Eastern Europe in my day, with the sole exception of Poland, which had universities which were the only universities where every professor was on the right. That was because the communists were everywhere. But on the whole, this is the first move that the totalitarian mentality makes to stop that kind of free-minded, open scholarship in pursuit of truth. But so we have been lucky in inheriting universities of that kind. But is it the case that we still have them? We have seen the growth of an extraordinary number of new subjects in the university in which the pursuit of truth seems to be secondary to something else. The other thing being the pursuit of some kind of political conformity. If you take a subject like women's studies, now I know this is a controversial issue, but perhaps it can be talked about freely in this room. You can't talk about it freely in America, on the whole. Anyway, there is a subject. It's very difficult to imagine that you would succeed in that subject if you didn't have, either at the outset or certainly in the conclusion, feminist opinions. And there is it's a subject constructed around an ideology. It might be that this ideology is grounded in truth, who knows? But to question it is something which is essentially made impossible both by the curriculum and by the way of teaching it. And I think you'll find that there are quite a lot of subjects like that growing in our universities in which conformity to an orthodoxy takes precedence over intellectual method. And it may be that that there has to be something like that. As, maybe after all, in the Middle Ages, maybe theology was like that. But the interesting thing about medieval theology is that it encouraged the intellectual method despite its requirement of orthodoxy. We are now going through a time when truth itself seems to be increasingly marginalized from academic scholarship. And I think there is one particular influence here, which I would like to conclude by mentioning, which is the influence of those theorists who actually say that truth isn't something which we can rely upon at all, because it is a historically given thing which changes with the power structures and structures of domination of the society in which it is uttered. The most important figure here, as you will know, is Michel Foucault, who saw all his work as giving us a histoire des vérités, a history of truths, as though truths have a history. Something is either true or not true, but nevertheless, he wanted to rearrange the whole curriculum in such a way that when studying the thoughts of and writings of people of the past, we're not really interested in the truth of what they say, but in the power that speaks through it. That the only commodity in the intellectual world is power. Who has dominion over whom? And that way, of course, you can turn any subject, however impartial it seems in the outset, into an instrument of ideological conflict by saying that, to date, English studies has been an exercise of male power over the female gender. So I'm going to turn it upside down and make it an exercise of female power over the masculine domination. And you can turn all the subjects of the university upside down, rearrange them as part of the agenda of liberation, and that way think that you're still doing a scholarship. And the interesting thing is, of course, that you can then call upon a mass of fake scholarship and fake philosophy to give you authority. And that is something which I have written about in my more theoretical works, the growth of the fake scholarship industry, which enables people to claim authority for nonsense. And the purpose of that nonsense being that it makes conformity to orthodoxy the only thing that you have. If the scholarship is nonsense, what is there? Only the conclusions. And those conclusions turn out to be the usual liberal axioms from which you actually begin.
So there you have it. I want you to see that. And I want to address this guy here, man. This Kevin King guy, man. Let me see. What did he say? He says, y'all some lames that don't get pussy. Hey, look here, bro. You're invited to come on. I got 2 children that are grown, man. 2 girls that are adult in age. So, like at the end of the day, bro, you don't know us. You don't know who the fuck we are. And I guarantee you, a nigga like you gotta be lame. Cause who the fuck comes to somebody's channel where they don't like the content and comment at all? I'm the type of dude, man. I slide by shit I don't like. I don't comment on shit I don't like. I just move past it and keep pushing. You understand me? But a guy like you, like your whole idea about manhood is related to how much you fucking. We can already tell you probably got 2 or 3 kids you don't fuck with. But that's a whole case, a whole nother story to deal with. But you free to come on here and talk that shit if you want to. And I'm hood tested and approved, by the way. I'm the type of guy, man, if a motherfucker say some slick shit to me to my face, I just might smack the fuck out of him and keep it pushing and dare him to do something about it. I don't give a fuck if Crip or Blood, Lord, or Gangsta Disorder. if you in disguise, you a woman and you too scared to be a woman and come and have direct dialogue, fuck you too. I'm just keeping it a buck. I dare you to come, but you're probably going to be a little bitch, you know what I'm saying, and not come and have the dialogue because you probably are, incoherent, inarticulate fuck nigga. It is what it is. So, having said all that, look, I'm not bullshit no more. I'm from Kasuth and Fair, bro. Where niggas talk shit, they end up with their body leaking somewhere. That's where the fuck I'm from. I'm from St. Louis North Side, bro. And, dog, I ain't the coolest nigga on earth, but I guarantee you I'm cooler than you. I can do way more cool shit than you can do. I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest, bro. I don't view content. I make the shit. So if you don't like what I'm selling, get the fuck on down. Bounce out, bitch. But anyway, at the end of the day, we have a situation, man, at the university system where people already have preconceived notions about what is politically just, what's politically unjust, and, they do what is called like confirmation bias. They do everything they can in order to confirm what it is that they already think. And then when it comes to postmodern thinking and post-structural thinking, I mean, the whole idea is that there is no truth whatsoever. That truth is only, especially as it pertains to literary works, which I don't understand why English professors are giving us our fucking politics anyway, but it's happening. But you got to go through all of the texts because every text is nothing but an indication of where power resides and people who are trying to dominate and, oppress others. And that's the main extent of it. And then we can remake the world according to our own, categories. We can engage in what's called deconstruction. And what they're doing is trying to deconstruct everything. But like when you start tinkering and tampering around with culture and society, the results are not always what you would expect. Might seem good for a minute, but it's negative externalities from just going around tinkering and tampering with established conventions. I blocked his ass. I blocked him. Fred, not the other dude though. I blocked the one dude that was talking about you got diabetes. I blocked him, but I ain't blocked the guy who was saying you don't get pussy. Like, I mean, if I didn't, who cares? But shout out to Rais Muadjid, St. Louis, baby, North Side, 4-1 block of Kasuth, baby. Look the shit up on the internet. Look Kasuth up on the internet, KOSSUTH, and look it up. I'm hood tested and approved. I can go anywhere. Chicago, California, anywhere and feel good and feel safe and comfortable around black folks. From low class to middle class to high class. I can fit in with all of them. I have no issue or no problem fitting in with everybody. And talking to people I don't even agree with. But if you come with some disrespect, man, I might fuck you up. It's just reality, bro. You understand me? So, at the end of the day, this is what we dealing with. My boy said these are female troll accounts. I have no doubt that they are. But, if you want to be brutal, if you want to be an asshole, see, here's the thing. If you want to be an asshole, but you don't expect for people to return around and be an asshole, then what is that? That means you're privileging your own safety at the expense of others. What kind of fuckery is that? So you can violate people and their dignity, but you don't want to have anybody violate your dignity. And that's that bullshit. So I'm gonna invite these brothers on, man, to speak their piece, but then I gotta get back to this because I gotta finish up I gotta give my closing statements. Sir Pookie and the Masculinist, man. You're now in the stream. What's good? Talk to me.
What's good? I only came up here for one reason. I just wanted to make sure this ain't the brother that got the homie channel taken down because over some doxing mess. Because I know these brothers are going around. Are you
okay? So I don't know. You know, like I got both of y'all up. So the Masculinist, they saying you doxed somebody and took their channel down. And I don't know what that shit is about, but you know, like if it's some fuckery going on, you know, in the manosphere, I'm not even involved in it. I'm just getting a lot of people to. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if I don't know. I just want to say this and clarify. I'm on the record. I don't know if this is him for sure. I don't because he's been hopping around on channels, but it's something like that, and it kind of looked like I don't know. I just want to make sure you're not that guy. Did you take down Art of Immore's channel? You there?
The Masculinist. I mean, he's talking to you directly.
Because if he's not, I ain't had nothing to say. I just want to make sure your channel wasn't getting fucked up. I tried to warn you in the chat, but I didn't know if you seen that or not.
Man, your
audio is terrible, bro.
You calling out people, man. That's what going on.
Oh yeah, it is. I didn't call you out. I didn't say for sure. I was just wondering. I ain't call you out.
All right, so look, what I'm about to do, because this is not entertaining or informative. So thank you, my brother, for trying to give me the heads up. Thank you for the other guy for trying to join in. But like right now, his audio is not working well, and I don't see the need to continue on with this exchange. But thank you, brother. Yeah, thank you for coming in and trying to warn me, because all you're trying to do is protect me and give me some safety. But look, my channel, I'm gonna say what I want to say. I'm confrontational. I'm direct. I don't bite my tongue. I don't bullshit. Okay, so it is what it is. So at the end of the day, I can't hear you, brother. You're not coherent. Your audio is not working in a stellar fashion, sir. So I got to take you down because you're not saying anything. So at any rate, this guy's not saying anything. So I had to take him down. I would have liked to hear what he had to say, but can't say something if if you can't say something. You understand what I mean? So there you go. So at any rate, those are the facts about abuse and about the kind of scholarship that centers a narrative. I think it's hegemony, if you ask me. If you want to talk about discourses, which is what Michel Foucault talks about, discourses, narratives, and so on and so forth, and Derrida. Michel Foucault and Derrida, whom I've had the opportunity to study. They talk about discourses and narratives and how those narratives and discourses, preserve power of certain groups. But, above and beyond that, all I'm saying is if we're going to study black folks, we have to have more than politics that is never even fact-checked or that's never falsified. I don't deal in just moral precepts and axioms and postulates. We got to go dig into the bowels and entrails of experience of not just one group of black folks, but all of us in order to evince what is actually occurring in the black community. And until we can do that, all we got is a bunch of bullshit. So I'm allowing Brandon to come through right now. Speak your piece, Brandon.
Hey, yo, Green Gorilla, this Beezy from the chat, man. What's going on, man? What's poppin'?
What's happening?
All right, man. I got a serious question to ask you.
Go ahead.
Do you think that black men are being housebroken, like we're dogs or something like that?
No, I don't think we're being housebroken at all. Like this is what I do think. I think that, in the past 60 years, black men have been, bombarded with a barrage of ideology that they really actually don't have the capacity to interpret. So at some point, I think now men are beginning to, especially black men, are beginning to push back and to say, okay, well, what you're telling us reality is like doesn't fit in or match up to my own experience.
All right, let me ask you this question, man. You ever seen a movie called Training Day?
Oh yeah, I saw that.
All right, now it's a scene in that movie where a black person was beating on his dog, and the white cop was like, "We gotta go save that dog." And Denzel Curry said, "We ain't gotta save that dog." He said he's training that dog to hate black people. And I say this to say that. Do you think it's this? Do you think it's the same thing that's going on right now? You got black men raising hating themselves, hating females and shit, and you got black females hating themselves and hating other females, yo. So what you think about that?
I think to some degree what you say, there's some truth in what you say. You know, for the most part, it starts with love of self and knowledge of self. And unfortunately, we don't have a large amount of knowledge of self or, you know, the courage to actually investigate ourselves and to study ourselves as we actually are. And, you know, another thing is, you know, we're fully westernized. So whatever they tell us, we take as the gospel. I mean, if they come out with a new theory about what's progressive politically, we just adopt it and accept it. And then people parakeet it and mimic it and proliferate it. You know, but they don't. And so, but my issue is, see, this is what my issue is. Everything has to be put, especially as it comes down to academic research, or if academic research then becomes popular, it's disseminated into the popular culture. It has to be gone through with a fine-tooth comb. And any inconsistencies and any discrepancies have to be borne out. You don't just accept. Right. I mean, but I think what's happening is, you know, identity politics has begun to run roughshod over everything else. Every other concern, every issue related to rigor, adroitness and erudition is being forgotten and combed over in favor of people being able to virtue signal, grandstand, and basically to be, you know, a token. And so, are some people housebroken? That's
yeah. I was going to drag you right back to that. Like, don't that make us housebroken? Like, we can't criticize what black people do. We can't criticize what our females do. We can't say, hey, you doing that wrong, and then we get housebroken. That's like a dog shitting on the carpet, and you like, no, you can't do that. You go outside, and it's like we can't even talk about our own problems inside our own house without us being saying, oh, you hate black people or some crap like that. That's what I'm saying.
I think there's a degree of truth in what you say. Like, I mean, look, at the end of the day, this is my viewpoint. Everything needs to be critiqued. That's what a social critic is for. That's what all the prophets are for. The prophets come along and they tell you what you're doing wrong. Okay? Social critics are supposed to come along and tell you what you're doing wrong. Okay? But at the current moment, this is what's ended up happening. I'm going to tell you exactly, and I got to go because I'm going to finish up my show. But this is what's happening, right? You got a bunch of white folks, man, who have a certain discourse in the academy and who have a certain political orientation in the academy. And they have a career and they feel important. And what they say, you know, has some weight and gravity within their immediate sphere of influence. And they take that and other people learn from them that same discourse and they put it out there. But like, to be quite honest, man, look, here's the reality, right? And I'm going to put it in real dummy terms right now. Okay? So you mean to tell me Michel Foucault, some elite French white fucking intellectual, that this dude is working in service of justice, and that most of these academicians, especially the white ones, whether they be white feminists or whatever the case may be, do they really actually have an interest in communing with the least privileged people in our culture. Fuck no. They somewhere at Starbucks drinking a fucking cafe latte, looking in their MacBook Pro with their brand new fucking iPhone. And they checking their bank account, trying to figure out.
Yo, before you drop me up, I got one more question. Just one more question, man. All right. Do you think that witchcraft is tied into the Black feminist movement?
I mean, I have no doubt that it is. I mean, you heard what Brenda Verner said. I got a video on what Brenda Verner said about feminism in the 80s. And basically she was like, these women are worshiping Sophia, or, I don't have a problem with it. They can practice witchcraft if they want to. I personally don't give a fuck. Like, if y'all praying and you got negative prayer against your own race, if that's what you want to do, hey man, it is what you want to do. I mean, if that's it's freedom of religion in America. So you can do whatever you want to do. If that's what you want to do, that's how you want to spend your time. If that's how you want to, exemplify your morality or your spirituality, if you want to do that, you can. Now, am I superstitious? I'm not. But I went to a Catholic grade school, high school, college, and a Catholic graduate school. So it ain't too much about spirituality and esoteric knowledge related to the divine that you can tell me or not tell me about. I done studied all of that shit. You know what I'm saying? I even know African.
All right, well, let's leave it like that, man. You got more cards, and I appreciate your time, man.
Hey, man, be peaceful, bro.
All right, man. Stay up, boss.
Stay up. So, yeah, good questions from that guy. Good questions. So, look, I ain't worried about, motherfuckers practicing, witchcraft and all that shit. I'm like, man, if that's your bag, go ahead and do it. But understand, though, like, you might get what you ask for. And, like, your deity is not the only deity. I mean, like, this is the way I understand spirituality, like the Memphite theology. I think that the gods represent either psychological aspects of the human person, or they represent some aspect of being itself, allegorically or metaphorically. Okay, so I'll get deeper into that at some other time. Right now, I don't have time to really go into that and break it down. But ultimately, the gods, what do they actually represent? Either they represent pieces of your own psyche or aspects of your own personhood, or that of nature. So it's a personification of being. That's what it is. Or an anthropomorphization of being, so that you can gain greater clarity about some aspect of being or some aspect of yourself. But I'm not like this guy who believes in, hanks and spirits and ghosts, coming in to terrorize me, at night. I went through that shit when I was a kid. I'm done with that superstitious shit. And if that's the case, if you into that, hey, you go ahead and go on and get down with that. But every culture has a pantheon of gods. And the brother Lateef Edwards, he brought the word to my attention. There's always balance, typically, except for in Western culture. I mean, when Christianity came to be, there wasn't much of a balance at all. It was just a hierarchy. But in most cultures, you see, from, the Yoruba cultures to, even, the cultures in Haiti that were syncretistic in nature or in kind. There's a pantheon of gods that are male and female that are counterparts, and there's balance within it. But, like, can you imagine, like in the Egyptian pantheon of gods, like, Osiris is trying to murder Set or Isis. And now some gods do have war with each other, but it's symbolic of something. Like in the Memphite theology, Osar is supposed to represent the indwelling God within us, and Set is supposed to, be emblematic or metaphoric of either our physical nature, which interrupts the indwelling intelligence within being able to find full expression in our daily lives, or it comes from, trying to be over analytical, meaning you want to split things into parts and pieces and not see the big picture. Because in the end, It's about your cosmological worldview. If you view the world as separate, discrete substances, each having their own self-contained right to do whatever it is they want to do, then you're not looking at the big picture. Everything is interdependent with every other thing, and we're in communion with, all things to some degree. We participate in a communion or an interconnection with everything within the context of nature and the universe we live in. But, I'm not trying to get hermetical into the hermetic sciences or, the Memphite theology right now, but I'm just putting that out there, okay? But anyway, man, I'm going to get back to this divesting shit, okay? So in the end, I'm not absolving men from any responsibility or guilt for in any shit that they do. And it has to be called out. I don't have a problem with calling out bullshit that men get on. But I have a problem with men only being the target of what is considered to be pathology in the context of the black community. That's bullshit to me. If we're going to talk about the dirty mess that exists within the black community, we got to talk about all of it. Not parts and pieces of it according to some sort of intellectual heuristic or scheme cooked up by white intellectuals, whether they be, French intellectuals, German, or whatever the case may be. We got to go deeper than that. But anyway, man, like I said before, man, I'm not a divester. I'm not asking to divest. I'm asking to tell the truth. Is what I'm doing. Now, if you got a group of people on some bullshit, they don't like me, they don't want to fuck with me, cool. Kick rocks. Let the doorknob hit you where the good Lord split you. I'm not going to go out of my way to fuck with somebody not trying to fuck with me. Why would I do that? I'm not trying to cooperate with people who have an overt hostility towards me, whether they male or female. Why would I do that? Whether they black or white. So if it's a group of black folks that have an openly hostile attitude towards me, I'm going to either tell them, hey, bro, you need to avoid me, or like if you keep fucking with me, you're going to get fucked with. It's just that simple. This ain't rocket science, man. But anyway, man, back to the lecture. We talking about divestors, okay? So we talked about the whole issue related to domestic violence and abuse, which is not monopolized by black men in the black community. It's just not. Now, you can watch Lifetime television and get all of your ideals and your understanding about how relationships work from the fucking TV or blog posts or, activist literature or even academicians who claim to have, some grasp of the truth in relation to these matters. But I do meta study, man. I don't just accept anybody's word for anything. At first, I'm a philosopher, man, meaning I'm critical of every point of view until I, can settle upon something that makes sense to me. But I don't just accept shit based on my emotions and my feelings. I got to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. And if it seems to make sense to me after a prolonged period of time of study, then I can say, hey, okay, this makes sense to me. This seems like a more accurate depiction of reality or closer to wisdom and the truth than this. That's how I view study. And I always reserve room to change my mind. And I go where the data or where the argument takes me. I don't just work with, assumptions and shit like that. So at any rate, I just come to the conclusion that, look, these women they say they want to divest and they don't want husbands and shit like that. Black men are better left to their own devices or women are better left to their own. Okay, fine, cool. But is it really the fact that you don't have husbands because black men are brutal and killing and oppressing black women? Or is it primarily because a lot of black women are antisocial, self-aggrandizing, narcissistic, selfish, and egoistic? Is it because you know, if you're a divestor because you fear for your safety, or is it because you really want things your way? And only your way. Now, to be personally honest, man, I suspect the latter to be the case. Not because of some twisted moral intuitionist argument, but in the courses of action that you actually take, that have been tabulated by demographers and social scientists for decades. And my whole viewpoint is that, look, black women, just like black men, are the product of slavery and Jim Crow. Not only that, but also the byproduct of social tinkering and meddling by white politicians, technocrats, academicians, and bureaucrats. Now, to some degree, I would go so far as to say neither black men or women are absolutely responsible for the conditions in which their actions are chosen and their ideas are given rise to. But you damn sure are responsible for continuing to subscribe to anti-black, misandrous, or even female tropes offered up to you by white culture. Now, look, I don't think black women are innately evil. I just think they hoodwink right now. I think that they just running with, you know, or either they being opportunistic. I don't think they're inherently evil, but I think that they're like somehow, you know, playing into colonialism. I really actually feel that shit. But once you know the truth and you've been exposed to it, if you're a scholar, if you're someone who's looking for truth, as opposed to just, you know, I'm just rolling with this because it feels good to me. If you're a seeker of wisdom, then you're going to revise your viewpoints as you become more informed. But we are responsible, both black men and women, for not just falling like gullible dummies, like lemmings, into whatever somebody tells us. It's gotten to the point, like, I'm just saying, like, for a lot of black women where they believe that their shit don't stink. These women, it seems to me a lot of them don't believe that they are members of a race of former slaves and segregates. As members of the most educated class in the black community, black women definitely are required to do better. And I think that a lot of black women have taken their status as non-threatening in the social scheme that we exist in, which means that they're no threat to the prevailing social dominance hierarchy, and weaponize that against black men for 30 pieces of silver, gilded 6 bits, extra blankets, pig feet, salt pork, and hog maws. Because when you look at the data, it'll show you black women ain't getting richer, neither really are black men. The black community as a whole still only has, writ large, $5,000 of wealth to pass on to posterity, whereas the average white family has about 85,000 to 100 G's. These are the facts. So the identity politics, the attention politics is not pulling us or any one of us out of poverty. It ain't happening. It ain't about how much money you're making right now. It's about how much wealth you're accumulating such that you can develop, you know, a compound interest strategy so you can pass the wealth on to your children and make life easier for them. And I've talked about black men and their shortcomings. But if black women can talk about black men and their shortcomings, I'll be goddamn if I can't talk about black women and theirs. Fuck that. If it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. Period. So yeah, after 2 centuries of slavery, 1 century of Jim Crow, a lot of women black women have been enculturated to believe that the fruit of their own womb is tainted. Now, any group of women that believes this nonsense has capitulated, as far as I'm concerned, to psychological warfare and has carved out a niche for themselves in society that will forever keep them in a subservient position, man. We're not having conversations about basic structures of society and larger social economic issues, because when you look at the economic situation, only about 2% of the people in this culture, man, have like 50 to 60% of the wealth. But we don't even talk about those issues anymore. That's not even on the table. Our table is, I want a black woman in this office, or I want a black man here or there or whatever. So, I'm going to bring up Mr. Z in a second. So we're not worried about the larger superstructural issues. We're having conversations about how much of a slice of the devil's pie we can get. How much you not getting. How much attention you ain't getting. For dying, or for, fucking members of the same sex. Or for not being able to fucking marry white men or white women. The consequences and output of these kind of actions, they speak for themselves. Especially as it pertains to, marriages amongst us. Like, black American women are the least married and the most divorced women on the face of the fucking earth. Over 70% of black babies are born out of wedlock and don't have stable and loving families that can guide them through childhood to adulthood. Yeah, there are success stories. But those stories, man, are not the norm. The norm actually is social dysfunction. And a tangle of pathology, if you want to use Moynihan terms. Now, if you're anti-black misandrist, you're anti-black, period. Quite literally, you hate blackness. And some of y'all, if you can shed your skin like a snake and put on a white one, you do so in a heartbeat. But the tragic fact is that you cannot. And some of y'all, it hurts your poor little hearts, don't it? Got you falling out and clutching your pearls. But if it just so happens to be the black men are as tainted as a lot of y'all think we are, then you should have no problem with divorcing yourselves from us socially or institutionally. That means stay away from us and our cultural products as well. So don't listen to R&B, don't listen to soul, hip hop, jazz, blues, rock and roll, funk, Afrobeat, reggaeton, or gospel. Because black men are primary inventors, architects, and producers of those genres of music. So don't listen to the shit. Go listen to some fucking EDM or John Mayer or something. So no Michael, no Prince, no Luther if you're old school. No Maxwell if you're old school. No John Legend, no Jason Derulo, no Chris Brown, none of that. Because the shit that black men fuck with is tainted. So don't listen to it. Don't listen to some polka, some Brahms, or some Beethoven. If you don't fuck with us, don't fuck with nothing we create. Since you want to talk about building, y'all, I heard this, reference to building. Y'all don't build shit. Y'all don't create nothing. Y'all don't do anything socially productive. Well, while you're at it, don't use your light bulbs. Because Lewis Latimer, a black man, invented the filament that makes the motherfucking thing stay on for as long as it does. Don't use the traffic light signals when you're driving down the street. Because Gary Morgan, a black man, invented the 3-light traffic signal to avoid coordination problems when people are driving on the road and, prevent accidents. Don't go to the grocery store and buy meat, because the meat was probably delivered in a refrigerated truck, which, by the way, was invented by a black man. whom you argue don't create or build any damn thing. And furthermore, when you go to the mall or you go into an office building, take the fucking stairs. Because a black man, Alexander Miles, invented the automatic elevator doors, which you conveniently use or that are available to your fat asses when the elevator actually arrives on a specific floor. If you get pregnant by Zaddy and you need to have a blood transfusion because something's going wrong with your pregnancy, you can proudly tell the doctors and the nurses that you refuse to get one. Because it was Charles Drew, a black man, who perfected the technique that makes blood transfusions possible. And by the way, all you divestors, if you want to separate yourself from black men, don't want to touch anything that they do because it's a taint associated with it, stop using your fucking microphones that you broadcast your shows with. Because it was a black man, James E. West, who co-invented the technology that is used in most of the microphones in production today, including the microphones that are utilized in your cell phones. Which I know is going to be close to next to impossible to do because most of y'all, you know, like some of us men like to run our damn mouths too. And we can admit that we got flaws. But do y'all admit that y'all have any fucking flaws whatsoever? I mean, I feel like some of y'all need to ascend to fucking heaven right now and attain apotheosis. You're already perfect. What the fuck is the use of staying here for? Now, none of this implies that black women have created nothing because there have been black female inventors, and they ought to be lauded and praised for what they have invented. And you all should be proud as well of what these women, black women, have invented and created and what they've contributed in terms of building society and making it better. But see, I'm not the one talking about divesting. I never claimed that I was a divester in one shape, form, or fashion or the other. I love black women. My mother's a black woman. However, sometimes I gotta love some motherfuckers from a distance. Because if you coming to me with some rah-rah shit, I know myself. Don't believe the hype. Get your mind right. Don't believe everything white people tell you about reality. Sometimes it's best for you to go do some investigation and some research. Try to falsify. I know you know what I'm talking about because I know most of y'all got psychology degrees and have been through research methodology classes. Stop trying to confirm everything you hear the white people tell you. Mr. Z, what's cracking with you?
What's going on, GG? Can you hear me well?
And yeah, I hear you, brother, really well.
Okay.
Mr. Johnson, let me shout out some people first. Mr. Johnson, I want to give you a shout out, M. Johnson. Appreciate that. Ray Knowles, I want to show some and exhibit some appreciation towards you, sir. Appreciate that. No guarantees. I want to, give you a shout out, brother. He says, for all you do, brother GG. Appreciate that. Straight up. Can't lie. Marvin Evans, I think he's been a member before, but thank you for becoming a member again. You don't have to stay with me, brother. And Mr. Z, I'm got to shout you out too. I didn't do it while I was in the context of the show because I was busy talking. But he says, GG, they want upper middle class white women, brother. They chastise black men for not building Wakanda and making black women the spoiled Karen. And, there's an element of truth to that. I'm going to tell you why as we proceed through the rest of the show. But, so I got everybody, I think. So go ahead, Mr. Z. Talk to me, man.
Thanks for having this stream. I was listening to you guys speak a little bit. I think it was a couple nights ago on was it Dr. Hassan's show? And this divestor talk to me, as somebody kind of trying to look at it from the outside, it is a certain contingent of black women using a neoliberal lens, a white supremacist hyper-capitalist lens to view black men, especially over the past, let's say 50, 60 years, and then deeming those black men not efficient enough, not essentially, like I said earlier, not building Wakanda for black women. For these particular women want to be one of the women off of Real Housewives of Orange County, right? They chastise black men essentially for not making them uber wealthy, and I say upper middle class to be nice. It really is uber wealthy white women able to look down on everybody else. That's the dream. They're no longer in the mode for fighting for freedom. Now they're attempting to fight black men to make them pampered, spoiled brats. And they're chastising us for not making them pampered, spoiled brats, which is funny because they sound like pampered, spoiled brats. So, that's pretty much what it comes down to. It's a Milton Friedman, Ayn Rand-esque way of viewing black men. So I think that's what you're seeing. And I don't even think they realize what they're saying for the average divestor. Now, some of the more educated, intelligent ones are using the anger and rage of black women, especially the ones that view celebrity life like it's everything. And they're using the anger and rage that they see when they see a celebrity with a non-black chick that he's having sex with. And they're using that to fuel this movement. Because what this really is why isn't Lizzo with the upper middle class? I mean, a rich rich black dude. Why did what's her face from the real God damn, I forgot her name. But why does she have to be with this frumpy white dude? Why couldn't she be with Young Jeezy? Why is Jeannie Mai with Young Jeezy? That's really what this is. Divestors are taking their cues from these loud, annoying ass black female celebrities and the fact that oftentimes they're not getting married to the men they think they should be getting married to. And so that trickles down to us, and they're like, well, you men haven't built anything, y'all haven't done anything, y'all haven't put us in these positions, it's your job to build this. They don't want to be Coretta Scott King. They don't want to be Betty Shabazz. That you were saying something, I think, a couple nights ago on Dr. Hassan's show, and I was listening to him like, Gigi, they don't want that. They don't want to fight. They want you to fight. they want to be pampered.
But that's not reality. I mean, look.
Oh, I agree.
My whole thing was like, what did the Haitian women do when the Haitian Revolution popped off? Were they like sitting somewhere? Were they sitting around somewhere? With a cuticle board and shit, and trying to figure out how they can get the French manicure and they weave put in, or were they fucking like, okay, let me put on my mask and get a machete, I'm about to slice and dice as well. Like, if you're gonna be like if you have an imaginary about being a warrior group of women, then you can't be like some effete, pampered, like what's the movie with Reese Witherspoon, man? Like, you can't be her, man.
Like the Devil's
Legally Blonde or some shit, like Legally Blonde. You can't be her, man.
Well, Gigi, that's okay. So one of the arguments, I don't know if you remember the picture of the young sister. Her parents had her out there protesting a few years ago. They saw that picture and they flipped their crap. They were pissed because they're like, y'all taking away her femininity, y'all got her out here doing what the men should be doing. And like these women, they don't, when you say the warrior class, they don't want that at all. As a matter of fact, there's nothing that agitates them more than to see a black woman on the front lines or even in the second row. They hate that. They really do want to be pampered. It is a form of delusion that we're seeing right now.
But see, look, women in every wartime effort, it's always going to be women who are also involved in one way or another. They might not be on the front lines. I mean, it happened in Vietnam. It's happening in fucking Ukraine now.
Yeah.
Like if you at war, or if there's like a political, conflict, and it spills over into violence, then, it's going to take like an entire community of people. It ain't just like men go out here and do X, Y, and Z. Even like during World War I and II, they had propaganda where the women were supporting the war and going into factories and doing their part in order to make sure that the men on the battlefield had munitions and shit. So, I mean, like, to argue...
One second, brother. I want to give Gigi one more example, then I'm going to shut up. I'm going to move out your way. Gigi, with this Ukraine thing that just happened, a particular content creator that I don't know if she's a divestor in particular, but she uses that type of rhetoric. She took a picture of the Ukrainian men putting the women on trains and stuff and turned that into a way to chastise black men and say, oh, see, these men, see what they're willing to do. They're willing to go to war and fight. And look, they putting their women on trains. They're not hiding behind their women's skirts. Now, you know what ends up happening? Because she's so loud about it on YouTube, white people come into her comment section and start telling her she don't know what she's talking about. These men would be on the train too if they could. They're being forced to fight. But it's just a way of chastising black men, right? You don't protect enough. You don't build enough. You don't do these things enough. And to the point where you got even white people coming in your comment section telling you don't know what you're talking about. And the particular content creator I'm talking about she's not a nobody. This chick has like 300 something thousand subscribers.
Wow.
One of her lives, she could pull 1,500, 2,000 people on a live. So that you and Dr. Hassan and Dr. Tommy Curry, y'all teach, but these people are hitting tens of thousands of people on any given video talking crap about black men. So the fight is real right now. And
in the context, like you said, Gigi, in the context of warfare, it seems that it's apparent that they've, in the divested class, totally has succumbed to the psychological warfare that has been deployed on our community for so long. Like at this point, I think we're just seeing the results of that war being lost. Like they're totally pathological at this point. They've remade themselves in the image of white women, and
that's why I said earlier,
short of it, and it drives them crazy.
Well, see, look, you got to be who you are, and you got to understand your own political, reality. And the reality is, white people ain't fucking with us like that, black, male or female. I mean, they'll fuck with us to some degree, but they ain't fucking with us on a wholesale fashion. I mean, they might give us some images on television or some shit like that, but like attention is enough for us. A representation is enough for us. One of us get into the White House, we all fucking overcame.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like one of us gets some wealth or some money or something, then all of us, by proxy, are able to enjoy the fruits of that and say, well, it's possible or something, But look, I believe what BGS says, some of like what he says about like racial differences are gonna dissolve in the near future. I don't necessarily believe that, but one thing I do agree with him on is this, that, we basically, man, we have been encultured to be the kind of people that we are.
Yep.
Because I just recently watched what he said, his commentary about the Farrakhan piece. And black people were made to think the way that they think. We like in
yeah, I saw that.
In Jewish, the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, when the Greeks were running shit in the Mediterranean world, like you had a group of Jews that were Hellenized. They called them Hellenized Jews. We're just Americanized black folks. We have no political culture or orientation whatsoever other than the one given to us or allotted to us by our zookeepers. I hate to say that shit, but it's just really is what it is. We have zookeepers, man, who feed us information, who give us a script and tell us what to think.
And to that point, like you played that clip. I don't know what year was that clip when the guy was questioning that group of young black women.
Well, that was I forget. I think it was Bill Moyers, and it's the documentary is called "The Vanishing Black Family." And
was that the 80s, 70s, late 70s, 80s.
That might have been the early 80s.
Early 80s.
Yeah.
And like you said, that was kind of pre ingrained rhetoric of like, black men abandon the children and they beat us and we can't. They're the problem essentially. Like you said, when he asked them, they didn't attempt to make it about black men. They essentially just admitted that they didn't want the responsibility and didn't want to do it. And this is before the rhetoric has been canonized to the level it is now. So that kind of tells us that, like you said, we were enculturated a long time ago and oriented towards this as a group, and especially the women were totally oriented towards independence and not necessarily moving and functioning like a culture or a society.
But okay, so that only happened during, like I did a show on this. You only started to see this kind of mentality evolve after black people migrated from the South to the North.
Yeah.
Now I will say that, like, if you, and I think me and BGS gonna do a show on this at some point, because he said we got to do a show on patriarchy, and I want to use this article that, you know, we've been kind of like going back and forth very in a tangential way about it in email. But I mean, you know, like, did black women have primacy in the family during slavery? Yes. But at least there was a value system in place during slavery where family was of importance. And having and including men within the context of the family structure was important, even during slavery. During Jim Crow, you saw it. I mean, because first of all, you couldn't play the gender political game. Gender politics was something born out by white women. It wasn't created and fabricated by black women. All you got to do is go back and look at the historical record, and you'll see the genealogy of it. It was the first wave of feminism, and when women started to talk about black men and how we need to resist against, you know, men in general, you started to see that with it's in the Americas. Now, I'm not saying it never happened elsewhere in the Western world, but in America, it was Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony. Okay, now were there black women who hitched themselves to their wagon? Yes. But I mean, the rhetoric, so Frederick Douglass was all for these women, and they had a coalition. But as soon as the moment arrived where black men looked like they might be able to advance ahead of white women did everything. I mean, they used every dirty tactic they could in order to talk about, even people who had advocated for the abolition of slavery were now talking about the backwardness and the savageness of black men and how they needed to be prevented and thwarted from having any kind of political autonomy, because then they would, you know, carry out their brutality on their own race, on their own women and children. Now, at the very, but let me just finish what I'm thinking. Because at the very same time, when you got a group of people by force being coerced to serve as slaves, you know, for white folks, and being subjected to the most cruel and unusual forms of degradation, at the very same time, you know, that all of this is occurring, you know, you got these people talking about how savage we are. I mean, think about that shit. I mean, these people basically took a fucking entire continent by force and slaughtered women, children. And to be quite honest, like, think about this, man. This is the shit they don't want to really actually confront. Black people now are the offspring, by and large, of black women and white men. The black race. We are Zaddy's children, man. Now, if you don't believe it, go check your phenotypical features with that of somebody straight from Africa, or who has a direct lineage from Africa, and see how you look and how they look. We're interbred with these people, but we're their bastard children, and they treat us like stepchildren, bruh. So we have like European and fucking African blood. We are mixed. We have a mixed heritage, bruh. So, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, if they was gonna fuck with us, they would have fucked with us when they was our kids, when they knew that we were their kids. That shit happened in Mexico. It was more Mexicans, more Africans, more slaves from Africa brought to Mexico than it was to America. Now, how many black fucking Mexicans you see? They didn't all just get eradicated through an act of genocide. They intermarried, they interbred with the population. The same shit with Brazil. More motherfuckers, black folks went to Brazil damn near than anywhere else. You don't see like a distinct, you do to some degree, I mean, but then people are mixed. That's the really swirling. Them people, like, they created their own weird ass racial hierarchies and dichotomies. But I mean, fuck, they interbred with the population. And if you had a white father, you could potentially be, you know, classified as white. But not in America. You got one drop. You know what the one drop rule is. You got one drop, you black. They didn't create all the same kind of racial stratifications that existed elsewhere. So, you know, at the end of the day, if they was going to fuck with us, they would have fucked with us already. That's my viewpoint. Now, I'm a pessimist in that regard.
Well, you know, Gigi, I think you mentioned intermixing and interbreeding. You know, these particular women, there's one group of women that they look at as the goal. Not we know that they want to be socioeconomically white women, but they look at how Asian women move. And because I've actually read these comments, I've actually heard these comments said verbatim, and that's the goal. Do what the East Asian women are doing in the U.S. And for those of you that don't know, American-born Asian women, according to Pew Research, marry outside their race at 54%, primarily to white men. So they look at that like that's the move, forgetting that there is a racial pyramid scheme in America, and you will never be allowed to do that, right? But that is the goal. The goal is, like I said earlier, they look at some of these other communities, especially white people, and they covet a particular position. And they don't care how it's gotten, the ill-gotten gains, like you said about how these people came to this continent and raped and pillaged and conquered. They look at that thing and they don't care about that. That's not the important part. The important part is the end result in the 21st century. And they look at whatever celebrity white woman and say, that's the life I want to live. Forget what her ancestors did to put her in that position. I don't care if the men in my group got to do that. I just want that, right? I don't
well,
care
you know, that, man, the history of the world is much different, man, than, you know, like the classifications economically, man, that, you know, obtain in America, man. Like this society, man, is like, I've said it before, this society is like the Hunger Games, man, where you got, you know, some people who live in districts where, you know, they barely have enough to scrape by and live by, and then you got the capital where you got a whole bunch of motherfuckers dressed up in weird ass fashions and looking like $1 million, but like, what do they feel like on the inside? You know, like, I mean, at the end of the day, man, the quality of your life is going to reflect the quality of the relationships that you have, not the quality of the, you know, your bank account. I mean, you know, you need money in order to subsist. I'm not saying that, you know, don't go after the, you know, your economics at all. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that's part of the equation. It's not the entire equation. That's not how you balance the whole equation. I mean, like, philosophers have been knowing this shit. Like, go study. They have something called the philosophy of happiness or the philosophy of well-being. And it goes back from ancient times, you know, to Plato and Aristotle, all the way up to now. There's a tradition that talks about shit like this. Like, it ain't just about having money. It's about you, even though you need money. You know, you can't be happy without having, you know, some accumulation of wealth, but that's not the only overriding or overarching concern that you should have as you traverse through your life.
Well, Gigi, you're talking about meaning, and they don't care about meaning; they care about resources. These people, I know, you know, because this is I don't want to say my area of expertise, but I've been listening for so long and reading for so long with these particular group of women that I have a good understanding of the way they speak. And what you're speaking about, this higher ethereal way of viewing things, none of that. Give me the house and the car and the burbs. Period. That's how they think.
But even if you give a woman, like, look, even white women, if you give them that, there's no guarantee they're gonna stick with you anyway.
Facts.
After you give a woman everything she wants, there's no guarantee that she's not gonna. If you have a social antipathy or you're antisocial because of your early childhood upbringing, where you think it's all about you, okay, and you've been enculturated to be, you know, a brat, like you said, then fuck, you're gonna be a brat wherever you are. Like, most of who you are is predicated upon your early childhood development. By 12 years old, man, who you are, man, is pretty much set in stone. In terms of your psychological disposition and temperament. After that, you know, you can go back. It's possible. I mean, that's what the Memphite theology is all about. Understanding that most of who you are, you know, is unconscious. Like, your waking conscious is the tip of the iceberg. The overarching aspects of who you are lie underneath a body of water. It's underneath your consciousness. That's why they call it subconscious. Like Freud had been studying Egyptology for like a long fucking time before he developed this theory. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, he was studying this shit like long ago. And he wrote a book called, you know, Moses and I think Manetho or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the name of the book was. But I mean, you know, Moses and I can't remember the name of the damn book. But I mean, ultimately, these people already understood that, like, okay, there are aspects of your being that you're not aware of and that you can only get to through meditation and through reprogramming. And it's possible to reprogram yourself because your essence is essentially unconditioned. The God within you can be and do anything. That, I mean, at least theoretically, that's, you know, the content of it, you know. But dude, if we're working with this idea, like this conventional notion of moral responsibility developed by Westerners, man, we fucked in the game. And he's right, Young. Yeah, Young. I love depth psychology and you know, people who think along those lines, you know. So yeah. But anyway, I want to record. You know, Harley has been here. I don't know who he or she is, but Harley, would you like to make a comment? Okay, cool then. I mean, they not in the room. Let me let Sir Pookie in. Sir Pookie, what's cracking?
How you doing, brother? I just wanted to say the conversation you've been having thus far is very influential, just like all the other conversations you've been having. And I do very much agree with you that it's really like a rigged fucking game, because even if you get to the end of the race, you get the final pony, it don't even matter. There's no guarantee in anything. So what is the point? There's no incentive to drive us to do this. Like it's simple with human philosophy and human nature that for human beings to do something, it's just we are by nature, because we've been doing it for 100,000 years, we are by nature lazy, bred to sit on our asses. We need something to motivate us. And it seems in the community we have lost the art of being motivative, being encouraging towards each other. So it's like, just in general. So it's like even with relationship dynamics, it's just getting tougher and tougher to even fucking like talk to a person. Like it's like we can't even sit in the same room and just calmly talk, like be in the same race. It's like always tension. It's like you just get tired, or you just don't give a damn to a certain extent, because you just get tired of feeling like you done did something wrong, or because of how you were perceived, or some other shit that it really is not really how it is. She just may not understand you or care to understand you. But if you
I ain't gonna go deep into it, but like and I'm not refuting anything you said, but here's the crux of the matter, man.
Mm-hmm.
You could be a rich ass dude, man, like balling, like, you know, motherfuckers. The women that come to Kevin Samuel say, you know, the kind of man they want. He got to be 6'3", he got to have a 9-inch dick, he got to have like a whole bunch of money or whatever. You can have all that, and then the woman will still be like, fuck it, I'm going to create some conflict with you because, fuck, I've never been brought up to have social skills. If you're antisocial and you got all that you want, you still going to be fucking antisocial.
Yeah.
Whether you male or female. This goes for both sexes. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I mean, if you don't know how to get along with people, man, and how to resolve conflict, it's going to be the case regardless as to what kind of relationship you get into. But unfortunately, you know, nowadays, you know, women don't even know how to fucking take responsibility for the shit they doing.
Or criticism.
Yeah.
It's like you can't even say anything.
Bruh, that day is over with, man. I'm through with that shit, man. Like, I'm not trying to preserve your feelings or none of that shit. I'm not going to continue to talk about y'all forever, though. But I just thought this shit was interesting. I'm like, if you're going to divest. What's stopping you? If you out of here, you out of here. Don't fuck with us. Keep it pushing. Like, I mean, I say the same shit about black men in this space, though. If it is the case that all you got to do is say, okay, fuck it, leave these business alone. Okay. Well, then do that and be on your way. I mean, no disrespect. I mean, you know, it's good for brothers to bond and shit, but like just constantly trauma bonding over the same issues and like, you know, rehashing the same conversation incessantly, it's like, okay, if you made that decision, like it's just like me. I could say, okay, I'm not fucking with no short women no more. I'm only fucking with women a certain height and they got a certain educational level. And then the next fucking week, you see me with some short ass broke bitch, you're gonna say I'm not really living up to my own commitments. Right?
Yeah.
And if you ain't even involved with the group of men that you complain about, that means you haven't secured the other man that you really actually have ambitions to get. So look, here's my issue with all of this, whether it's male or female. Like, you know, so ultimately this is what the shit comes down to. You don't love your daddy? You don't give a fuck about your brother? Your son? Your cousins and your nephews? And the same shit can be said about dudes though. Like you don't care about your mother? Or your sisters? Or your cousins? Or your nieces? Like this shit,
that's not true.
But this gender war, man, it creates a script whereby we supposed to like say fuck the, you know, family unit and the people that's closest to us. We supposed to say fuck them. Because some white people told us where the sources of injustice come from. And all of this shit is to divert attention from the real issue, which the primacy of which is race. So if I guarantee you, dog, we could talk all day, but I guarantee you, if it's a conflict between me and your sister, you probably gonna ride with your sister. Now, if she in the wrong, you can tell her you fucked up for what you did, but you still gonna be there to support her to some degree, right?
I mean, yeah, you got it.
I mean, I'm just being honest. Like, we can talk, like, if you got a daughter, you gonna want to confer with the dude she fucking with, but at the end of the day, if your daughter is getting like her ass beat the fuck down, you're gonna be out there trying to protect her, right?
Yeah.
But what if she doing wrong? What if she out there fucking up though? What if she out here attacking him? You gotta go out there and tell her, you fucking up.
Yeah.
You gotta be willing to tell her. You gotta be willing to tell her what's your point and responsibility in the conflict that you got yourself into. And that's the difference between a simp and motherfuckers out here actually trying to get to the truth. Because at the end of the day, man, look, ain't no black man born into this world without a black parent. Now, it's possible for you to have a black daddy and a white mama. But then if you had a white mama, you'd probably be fucking with a white woman anyway, right? Huh? I mean, am I wrong? If you got a white mama, more than likely, I mean, everybody ain't like Obama. Okay? We got a white mama, he went with the black woman. Most of these dudes out here, man, that got white mamas, they gonna find them a fucking white girl.
Yeah.
Now, if your mama is black, which most black kids are born into the world from black women, right? Not white women, but black women, right?
Yeah.
I mean, am I wrong or am I right though? Like,
yeah.
If most children are born to black women, you can't avoid these motherfuckers. You can't, and women can't avoid us. Black women, there's no way for them to avoid us. They give birth to us. This is how delusional this shit is to me. But that's just my opinion. Now, you don't have to choose one for a mate. You can go monk. You can find a woman from outside of the United States, even find a black one from outside the United States, if that's your preference. But get on that path. My issue is with injustice. Like, if I see somebody spinning a narrative that actually is untrue, it's my duty to come in and say, that's not true. What you're saying is not accurate. And you caricaturizing black men in an XYZ way, and so you're creating a great deal of social enemy for us. You understand? So, I mean, you know, you really can't avoid these motherfuckers, but like, that's why I'm trying to tell them, you can't avoid us. It's delusional. You are a manufacturer of black babies. And the vast majority of black boys. They come from your womb. So you mean that your womb is tainted? It produces tainted products? That's crazy to me. But if you look at them little babies, man, who looked at the dial test, and they were like, well, who's the bad kid? And they point to a black kid, and they black. Something went wrong in their early childhood development. Like Neely Fuller talks about this shit. Francis Cress Welsing talks about it. All the black Afrocentric scholars talk about it. Now we're confirming that bullshit.
True. It doesn't even matter if he's actually even a bad kid. You're just gonna get labeled it, and it's gonna be believable because of the perception. But we feed into it though.
But if your mother believes the worst about you, how's she gonna raise you to be able to fucking conquer the world? Yeah, there is an echo. I hear the echo, man. I don't know. It ain't me. It ain't coming from me. It's somebody. One of them got their YouTube on.
It ain't me. I'm on the phone.
Now it's muted.
Damn, I don't know what's going on then. I can't really speak on it. Let me see something right quick. Here's my experiment.
Is that better now? Or because I pull my mic away?
Yeah, that was you, bro.
Oh,
that was you. Sure. So yeah, Mr. Black, you can come back on, man. I unmuted you. I don't know. I was just running. But I mean, the reality is, and that's why I did the show on Frantz Fanon. You know what I'm saying? Like, both men and women can have this propensity to, abide by the black skin, white mask way of thinking about the world. It can happen to men or women. But we can't call out bullshit when it comes to women, but we can sure do it when it comes to men. And I'm one of the first guys who will go to my gift and be like, okay, if you're a dude and you're on some daffy shit, I'll call you out for it, right? You done seen me use that meme before, right?
Yes.
When it comes to men, right? I've used it.
Tap dancing.
But I can't use it for women that's doing the same shit?
No, Gigi, because they're morally superior to you.
Man, come on, man. Look, if the shoe fits, if the cap fit, let him or her wear it. Whether they male or female. I'm an equal opportunity critic. It just so happens, though, that we talking about black men, which, by the way, black men can exhibit virtue or vice. The same for black women. Black women can exhibit virtue or vice. But these narratives where, the world is bifurcated into the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, Marxian bullshit, and then they have no reference to Marx. None of the real shit about Marx. Only this, this new jack shit. This fake ass scholarship, man. It's like it's just
surface level. They'll take one of his quotes that isn't even during a pivotal time when he wrote the main majority of his pieces. One offlandish quote to base a whole goddamn theory off of. It's ridiculous.
Well, to be honest, I don't think it's about being consistent. So Pookie does have a point. It's about using whatever tools are at my disposal at whatever time. So it doesn't have to be something that's consistent Marxian. It will be Marxian this minute, then next minute it'll be Milton Friedman, then next minute it'll be Ayn Rand, right? So like it's not about being consistent, right?
Picking and choosing.
Yeah, because as a philosopher, Gigi's trying to have a larger conversation. And what I'm saying is these particular women are being informed by a bunch of different things. And none of it is necessarily consistent. And quite frankly, they're not looking for that. I'm stressing this. They put a market valuation on everything. And they've decided the Milton Friedman way of thinking about the world and about men in particular, black men, even more particularly than that, is the beginning and the end of everything. And so
divest in. I mean, fuck it. Like my whole thing is if you're going to divest, go ahead and divest. God bless you, man, in your divestment endeavors. You know what I'm saying? And do what you got to do. But at the end of the day, you still a Negro. And by the way, you still going to manufacture a black baby if you have one. Unfortunately. I mean, that's just the curse you're dealing with. What a fucking tragedy. It's like Oedipus Rex. It's like fucking Antigone. You know what I'm saying? It's like a Greek tragic story. You can't escape your blackness. Was it black men that created the black taint? No, this all of this was some bull or arbitrary category used to subjugate a population of people for the material gain of another group of a small class of wealthy people. Because the average white person wasn't rich off slavery, although they had a better lot than black folks. But the vast majority of these motherfuckers wasn't balling out of control like that. So a small class of white guys, but the society at large did benefit from it though. I have to admit that, like, white folks in general benefited off slavery and colonialism. They did. Now, if you want to consider yourself now to be a part of the bourgeois, that's the real, like, this the shit that fucks me up. So you got these women talking about mammies, like the black woman on the plantation who was all up in Massa House wasn't a mammy.
Exactly. Like,
that's what fucks me up. So I'm confused about that. How you gonna switch the definition of a mammy to now a white woman? I mean, a black woman with Stockholm syndrome is no longer a mammy.
No,
exactly.
A black woman that advocates for black men is a mammy now.
Pretty much. But even though historically, even the woman on the syrup bottle is based off black women who were notorious for hunting down runaway slaves, black men, and keep corralling them and potentially killing their asses to get them in line. Like, there's like, aren't there a whole bunch of illustrations, like early 19th century illustrations of the mammy, I guess, esque depicted black women chasing around slaves with butcher knives and stuff like that, with wide ass eyes and head wraps with polka dots?
Well, look, I mean, all I'm saying is, like, if we gonna talk about mammies, let's be accurate. Like, you more closely resemble ideologically or psychologically a mammy than the people you're critiquing.
True. Which is ironic.
It's not ironic at all. It's just a reappropriation of terminology in order to, create in and out groups, man. But I mean, look, at the end of the day, man, all I wanted to do was say, damn, this shit is perplexing, it's paradoxical, and it's also tragic. Because I mean, if you believe that the boys that you give birth to are naturally tainted, then you doomed. Especially if the race is doomed, especially if you raising them in single parent households. So then your own son gonna grow up to believe he's tainted just through osmosis. That's the default position. But you gotta love yourself first. If you don't love self.
Black sons. I am not joking, by the way.
Did you guys get a chance to watch the documentary yet? The docuseries that Miss Knowles dropped?
No, I ain't seen it
yet.
No,
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, okay.
What channel is it on? I mean, well, actually, I ain't got to watch it.
It's on Discovery, if I'm not mistaken. Discovery helps to produce it.
Yeah.
So, like, you got a group of women who basically are like, okay, well, why even focus? Like, don't talk about black men because black women X, Y, and Z. Like, these white folks got y'all so contorted and twisted, man, and got you thinking all barbed up and fucking convulsing each which way. Is ridiculous, man. And look, all of these narratives, man, like, the scholars have done the work on it. All of this shit comes from white women, man, doing the first wave feminism. So if you think like your colonizer or your slave master or mistress, if you have the same ideals about your own children as the slave masters, we fucked up in the game. We done. It's cooked. The goose is cooked. Like, unless there's a savior that comes from outside, like, like Elijah Muhammad tried to do or some shit.
Well, Gigi, if the personal is political, then when you say that and how what you're doing is regurgitating some radical feminist language or some first wave feminist language, what they would tell you is, no, these are my personal experiences. And I've definitely had that conversation in person and online. You tell them they're regurgitating old feminist, white feminist talking points, and they'll tell you, no, you're trying to gaslight me. No, that's not what this is. I'm speaking from my own personal experiences. I promise you.
But
And we
here's the
speaking
deal.
from data.
But here's the deal. Have you ever like these women have to also have personal experiences of doing things that are fucking outside of the path of rectitude? So you mean to tell me you walking around the earth not doing anything wrong and can't be culpable or held accountable for any of the shit? Like, I mean,
Well,
if you getting if we know statistically that women initiate violence more than men, so you mean to tell me that your personal experience is that, you know, you only were a victim in the situation in which you were in?
Well,
but you got women online. You got women online telling stories, laughing with each other about how they did X, Y, and Z to the man, or how they did this dude or that dude, how they did them dirty. These women know when they doing some foul shit. So and men already know when they doing some foul shit. Okay, we already know. We hold each other accountable for it, but they don't hold each other accountable for shit. That's the issue.
Well, Gigi, intersectionality dictates that I'm morally superior because I'm black, I'm a woman, and I might be LGBTQ. So whatever I do is as a response to you men and what you've done over ages and millennia to women. And in the black community, it's as a response to this over-exaggerated idea of the movie Color Purple. They think that shit's real life. And so whatever a black woman does to a black man is as response to something his grandfather or great-grandfather did to some black woman, I don't know, in 1873 or some shit. Like, I'm not joking. This is the logic here, or the attempt at logic.
Who the fuck, who stabbed Martin Luther King Jr.?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Who killed who killed Al Green?
Oh, man.
I'm just saying, like, you motherfuckers act like they ain't never did nothing crazy as a motherfucker. Like, I just saw the video, like, where the woman was, look at this shit, man. Like, I mean, let's, bruh, we just got to start being honest, man. All the lies and shit. So I showed this video right here, right? Whereby, I think.
And what is the reactions to lectures like these? We understand that you've been censored, things like that.
Yes, generally people refuse to believe it, despite a lot of scientific evidence showing that these are the facts. In fact, overwhelmingly, 230 studies as of a couple of months ago, and people refuse to believe it. It can't be true. Everyone knows that everyone is supposed to know that men do this, and men do it, but so do women.
That was the wrong clip, by the way. I wanted to show another clip, so let me show that other clip in succession to this one.
Yeah, I know you did. Like, didn't you just show that?
So what are the practical conclusions
this is the one I wanted to show.
These kind of researches? What do you call to change in the world?
The main practical conclusion stems from the fact that when women assault a partner, they put themselves at great risk. They've set the example.
Try me. I won't mess. I promise you. I promise you.
Get out!
And if we're going to end violence against women, we have to take steps to end violence by women.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. This is just not, well, okay, I'm sorry, I might have, you know. But anyway, who poured the hot grits on fucking Al Green? That's what I meant to say. But I mean, you know, at the end of the day, you know, like, I mean, you saw the black woman, and whether she was a foreigner, but she's still black in America, acting like a black woman. Shit. Got a gun, you know, like, and it was an NFL cat not too long ago, you know, who was cheating on his wife, but she went out there with a gun. She came, popped up where he was with a pistol.
Gun and a knife.
So here's the question. So that's cool? You can condemn every transgression of black men, but you can't do the introspection to say, okay, now, this shit we did was foul too. Or some of the members of our demographic, you know, also have some culpability or have played a role in the proliferation of pathology in our own community. Instead of doing that, we using like this faux politics and shit, this bereavement politics. It's bullshit.
Well, Gigi, the fundamental difference for me, the way I see it at least, is when women do something heinous, there's always a justification. Especially a moral justification. For those of you that hear me speak all the time, y'all hear me stress the moral clause that women try to use when they do heinous, and even from the smallest thing to the biggest thing. But it's always a moral reason, and their moral reason is always well, you did it first, or you made me feel, or I felt like, and then they commit whatever insane shit they're gonna do. But it's always I'm doing as a response to what you've done.
Hey man,
right? It's never because I wanted to do. I did it because you did first.
And that's bad faith action in general. Because I mean, like if you even go to the French philosophers, I mean, one of the first things, not Foucault, but I mean, at least Jean-Paul Sartre. I mean, the first thing he said is like, you are condemned to be free. You make choices and you're responsible for the choices you make. Like that's the cornerstone of most, modern French philosophy or contemporary French philosophy anyway. Like you're making choices out here. You're deciding things. You are not just a passive actor on the world stage. And to the extent to which you act like you are, you're being disingenuous and you're acting in bad faith, man. So, and look, sometimes women react to injustices. I'm not saying it doesn't ever happen, but like every woman is only subjected to an injustice and being retaliatory. Or are some of these motherfuckers actually assaulting people, man? Just because they angry or something. So at the end of the day, like, look, I was watching Dr. Johnson's show, man. Some woman, man, put her fucking son in a garage, man, in Minnesota and left him there overnight. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, what the fuck is the excuse for that shit? And the most vulnerable people in the black community are children. What's the fucking excuse for that? So we can talk about who's terrorizing who, but the most vulnerable people in our culture are children. And boys and girls are subjected to abuses of all kinds by both men and women. But don't just pin the tail on black men and say, oh, it's all black men that's doing pathological shit. But the vast majority of black folks aren't even engaged in the kind of pathology that the scripting says that it is. And a lot of these women, man, they fuck. Look, how many times have you been assaulted by anybody in the world? Like to expect to walk through life and there not to be any conflict at all is fucking quick-sighted. But then you imagine yourself to be a Wakandan warrior princess, but you fucking can't even handle your own business. You strong as a motherfucker, but you can't handle the brutes.
You have no agency and no autonomy whatsoever, but you strong as hell.
Man, cut that shit out, man. A lot of these women, man, strong as a motherfucker. You saw that woman attack that boy on the screen just now. You understand what I'm saying? Like that woman was like going, like that woman right there, man. All women ain't dainty little motherfucking weak and frail passive ladies, man. And they know that shit. And stop resting on this female Victorian bullshit. Like, come on, man. Like that's some bullshit. We all couldn't hurt a fly. Fuck that, man. Look. Read I think either it's Hobbes or it's Machiavelli, who basically says, I can't recall which one, but I'm leaning towards Machiavelli. Well, he says, look, man, a 97-pound weakling can kill one of the strongest men on earth by secret machination or through ill design. It don't take a lot of effort to hurt a motherfucker, bro. Like a woman with a gun could kill motherfucking Lou Ferrigno. Or all she got to do is hit him with a knife in his sleep. Or poison him. This idea that like women have no ability to do harm is some bullshit. And I'm not saying that's representative of all women. But stop saying this shit is representative of all men. And another thing that doesn't get really announced is most of the time that, black boys learn violence in the home, they're learning it from their mothers. Specifically now in this era where like most of the rearing is done by women, the most violence that they're like, subjected to comes from their own mothers. Like putting your ass in a fucking garage when it's frozen outside? Because you made her mad. You irritated her.
Well, Gigi, we're not having that. So I do this for my own sanity. I separate these type of divestors from just the angry, bitter sister that's mad about who she couldn't get in high school, and then the actually educated, using this as a fuel for her own mischievous, insane, insidious feminist agenda. And those particular women are educated. We're speaking about like graduate degree level educated women who they know some of the stories that you're speaking of, that we've spoke of in this space, but that doesn't matter to them because it is about this weird form of what they're calling it black female empowerment now. So if you see the terminology BWE, that's black women empowerment. But what it really is a mixture of a bunch of different things. They're playing with the occult. They're playing with weird ass ideas of witchcraft. Yes, I'm gonna make a video about that eventually. They're playing, and excuse my background, I'm driving right now, but they're playing with all of these ideas, and that's what I was saying earlier. When none of this necessarily is consistent, because it's just about weird ways of just trying to, like I said, trying to be white women, trying to be in this position. So you just pulling at everything you can, and some of that is old African ideas about how they practice religion. Then it's some weird perverse remaking of Marx, and then some weird perverse remaking of Milton Friedman, and then some weird perverse witchcraft and Haitian voodoo ideology, and some, like, I'm not joking, it's a bunch of things they trying to mash together in this stew of like insaneness. I'll call it. I'll pause right there.
But at the end of the day, the most insane thing is for you to practice witchcraft on your daddy or your brother. Or your daddy, your brother, your son, your nephews. Like, what the fuck is that? You don't do that. Like, I mean, it's one thing to say that, this particular man pissed me off, so fuck him. It's another thing to say that this is just like, all black men are like this. It's stupid, man. That's my issue. Like, my issue is not to try to cancel black women. I can give a fuck less. Go get your money, get your bread. But if you're going to start talking about like a phenomenon that's occurring in the black community, let's at least have an accurate depiction of what the fucking phenomenon is. Don't just use this as a political means by which to make yourself a victim so that you can, basically, carry out some sort of sick and perverse anti-black misandrous, objective. Fuck that. I'm not for that.
Well, you just described it. That's exactly what it is. That is what it is.
And I'm sorry for the stream element bot being sensitive. I probably do gotta tamper it down a little bit. But I'm just back, man. Like I ain't been here for a minute, and so hey man, you got hiccups here and there. So I apologize for what hiccups I do have. But I do want to. Yeah.
I was just wondering about StreamYard for a moment in general, because I was going to start streaming myself. Like, how is the streaming is? Because I know there'd be bugs on here at times. How is the StreamYard software on this platform?
It ain't no software. It's just there's no software at all. It's just a website. So you link the website up to where you create an account. And then you stream whatever you're streaming through the website at any given time. And it's not perfect. I mean, it's technology that's not secure. I mean, think about it, man. It's democratic in the sense that anybody can get online and stream. So, you can't, it's not a private, dedicated server, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, you can expect flaws, but it works pretty well to my estimation, man. I get done what I need to do with it. And, you don't
have any crashing issues, nothing like that?
But it doesn't crash because I've never crashed online per se, except for when there was a problem on my end with my software. But like the website, I've never seen it, personally in my experience. I'm not saying it has never crashed or anything like that, but shit, every time I use it, man, this shit always good to go. Like when I earlier tried to use it, it didn't pick up my audio, but I probably hadn't had checked it beforehand. Yeah. I mean, you're gonna have problems. Finicky. Like, look, every software package that you have is going at some point is going to crash. Ain't none of this shit 100% stable. None of it is. I mean, like if you got a WordPress blog site, that shit gonna crash from time to time. If you got Netflix on, sometimes the vocals gonna be non-synchronized with the video. I mean, ain't none of this shit perfect. Like there ain't none of this shit perfect. But hey, look, brothers, man, it was a joy for me to come back and talk to y'all tonight. And look,
thanks for having me up.
Thanks for coming on. And look, my goal and my objective is not to try to bash anybody, but I'm just, this is my opinion. Like, I feel like, okay, y'all got a lot of shit to say about us, but here's my take on what y'all saying and what your philosophical disposition is or your political disposition is. And I feel like I have the right to say that, just like y'all got the right to say what y'all got to say. But I mean, like, if you are really about this divesting shit, get down the road with it, man. Just, live your best life. Lead the Negroes and lead the monkeys to their own devices. Let the monkeys roam around the zoo and do what they do. I mean, if that's what it is, what I'm saying? Like, if that's really what it is, then you ain't got no issues. But you do have it. But if you have a kid, though, what I'm saying? If you got a son, all of a sudden the whole perspective changes, because then what? Now you got a black boy from a white man. Then what you gonna do about that shit?
Uh-oh.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're a Negro manufacturer. That's what happens in your womb. Now, if you got an issue with that, you got to consult with your creator or whatever guys may be. If you praising Sophia, or if you praising one of the Yoruba deities or the Santeria deities or whatever, you gotta consult with them and ask them.
Well, Jimmy, you said it. First, I'm a black man that only dates black women. I will only marry a black woman. So this is not about distancing myself from sisters either. So I agree with you on that 100%. Number two, we and you didn't even allude to it. You straight up said, like, we act like we don't know what country we live in. If white dudes was coming, they would have been came. And no pun intended. Ugh. But if they were trying to like marry up black women, okay, let's say the laws changed in 67. That's Loving versus Virginia. They would have been wifed y'all. Like, we're talking about something that's 50 years in the making, at least legally, to be able to marry y'all. They would have been, black women are 6.5% of the population, give or take. White men are like 30 some odd percent of the population, give or take, right now. They would have married y'all in insane numbers if that's what they wanted to do. But just because you're mad at us doesn't mean white supremacy is not a thing. If they wanted to, they would have married y'all, and there wouldn't be no white supremacy the way we think of it. But apparently, they care about having white babies and continuing down this horrific road, and so for the most part, they're not marrying y'all in any significant number. I think 2% of white men are married to black women in the whole entire country. Like, what?
And that's my point. My point is, because blackness has such a pejorative connotation, even black women can't escape it, even though they trying. Like, it's an exercise in futility. That's my point. It's an exercise in futility. It's ridiculous. It ain't gonna work. I mean, all you really actually doing is exhibiting the same internalized inferiority and your own negative ideas about self. You projecting them onto a population, and it's providing a catalyst for you to do so. But beyond that, also, it's allowing you to hate men predicated upon your own personal experiences or whatever. But what the fuck are y'all doing? Like let's just be clear. Like, y'all ain't perfect. And if you are, fuck, pray to your deity, pray to Oshun or Oya or some shit, and get the fuck on out. Go holler at Yamaya or some shit and break the fuck out. Ebina, Oduda. Go fuck with them, man. Real talk. I'm just saying, like, get with them goddesses, man, and get the fuck on down the road. Go tell Mojaji, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, just stop the rain or some shit. Like, I mean, what the fuck, bro? You know, but like all of them female deities have male counterparts. And that's what they missing. You can't just take, I mean, you can abstract away, but white people already did that shit with you know, their religion, and look how that is. And many of these women consider themselves to be Christians and shit. You know, like, I'm crazy. Man, dude, I'm done with this shit, bro. It's like, I'm 3 hours in, but thank you, bro. Like, I'll come holler at you and chop it up on your show anytime, bro. If you got
I've definitely got to have you on. I'll tell you in the back chat, there's another philosopher brother that I want to speak with y'all on some stuff, because the way philosophers think, especially black philosophers, oh my God. And yeah, because I think y'all will have a great conversation. And you know,
sure.
Yeah.
For sure, bro. But I want to thank Michael Jordan. I appreciate your contribution, brother. Appreciate that. And I appreciate all y'all for coming and watching me. I know I've been incognito for a while, man. And, you know, it's only because I was trying to get that music channel up and running. The music channel is up and running. I need for y'all to, you know, subscribe to that channel, man, to go watch, you know, you don't have to watch it. It's background music. So if you know, working on a project or something, there's no words in it, so it won't distract you too much. You know what I'm saying? It's like a whole bunch of other people out here got lo-fi hip-hop channels or whatever, but I ain't doing lo-fi hip-hop. I'm doing Afro beats. I'm doing all the music created by black men the world over. All genres. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's funk, R&B, reggaeton, or whatever. Because, you know, black folks created reggaeton in Panama, if you didn't know. And, like, the backbeat for most reggaeton records is a record called Dembo from, what was his name? What the fuck is that guy's name? I can't think of his name. Flex time to...
Okay, Gigi, I'm about to drop, but I left the other brother's link in the background. And I'll speak to you later, brother. Thank you for having me up once again.
For sure, man. Be peaceful, brother. And Chaos, I'm out of here, man. But talk to me, man, before you leave. What's going on?
Well, before I go, let you know that you're about to be off. I might gonna start streaming in like maybe 45 minutes at best. So if no one else is doing anything, I think we should come through for this one. I think we'd have this discussion. Don't know what it is, Catherine channel. You know.
For sure. Well, you know, if I feel up to it, man, I might come holler at you. But, you know, bro, I've been talking for 3 hours. You know what I'm saying? Like, God.
That's cool.
You know what I'm saying? But you can hit me up anytime, man. You know how to get in contact with me, right?
I think I might have your email. I'll double check. If it's on the
It's gwithapHD@gmail.com, man. Hit me up anytime if you want me to, you know, get down with you, you know, talk about something. I'm down for that.
Oh, excellent. All right, cool. I can do that. All right. Talk to you later. Thank you.
All right, brother. Hey, man, y'all all be peaceful, man. It's been one tonight, man. Thank y'all, man. I appreciate the support and, you know, the encouragement, man. Thank you so much. I'll holler at y'all at a later time, man. Y'all be peaceful, yo. Peace. Straight up. Holla at ya.